I don't know about you guys, but I love watching meme review videos on YouTube. Legal Eagle has done it, Dr. Mike has done it, and we are jumping on the bandwagon today reviewing some law school memes and comparing them to what life is actually like as a law student. Demands you write in short, clear sentences, makes you read nothing but long, confusing sentences. Wow, that is very accurate. I've talked about before how legal writing is super dry because you have to be short, concise, but then when you read your case books and see how judges actually write, it is never that. I mean, you have paragraphs of just one big long sentence and lists of factors that may or may not actually apply to the case you're reading. There have been many a case where I read the whole thing, it's pages and pages long, I struggle my way through it, and then the very last sentence is basically,
"This isn't good law anymore, don't do that."
how it feels to explain legal principles to your non-law friends. It's just that bird law in this country is not governed by reason. No law seems to be governed by reason. And yet, every case is about the reasonability of some factor or some rule. It doesn't really matter if you believe something is the right thing to do. It matters if it was reasonable to believe that something was the right thing to do. Yeah, it's rough. Got a little Hunger Games action. Happy exams, and may the curve be ever in your favor. Law school, for all intensive purposes, is always graded on a curve. Basically, what a curve does is it makes sure that not everybody can get an A, not everybody can get an F. If the professor's nice about it, everyone's grades end up on a curve around a middle mean. At WashU, that mean is around an 87% or a B+, which is really nice. As one of my professors recently told us, half of us are below average students at WashU Law. If you're an average student at a really good law school, you've got nothing to worry about. And I have to keep saying that because I'm an average law student at a really good law school. As far as I know, we haven't been scored on anything yet. Co-ownership severance, severance by alienation, severance by agreement, severance by course of conduct, severance by court order, severance by merger, severance following homicide. Well, that escalated quickly. So I don't think this is going to be very funny to anyone who's not in property, but this is very relevant to what I just was talking about in property, like last week. Basically, co-ownership is when two or more people have equal rights in a certain piece of property. So maybe a husband and wife both have their names on the deed of a certain property. And so if those two people desire that their co-ownership be severed, that only one person owns the property, that they sell the property to somebody else, there's only certain ways that they can do that because there's only certain ways that you can get into a co-ownership. There is actually severance following homicide. It always depends on what jurisdiction you're in, but it's kind of crazy that we have to have laws like that because there are cases where they're applicable. How I feel walking to law school with 5 casebooks and a laptop. Yeah, it's rough out there, especially if you have to park really far away. Thankfully, we have a parking garage really close to us, but it's still a hefty little uphill climb for a couple minutes with sometimes 5 casebooks and a laptop, plus notebooks, plus lunch, plus all your bazillion highlighters that you may or may not use, plus a full water bottle. I don't feel bad when I don't make it to the gym because I'm getting a workout every day. You can't write an essay the night before it's due. That's because I can write it the day it's due. I don't have a lot of essays for law school yet. Definitely could happen in the future. I do have a couple. I wouldn't recommend writing them the day they're due, though I definitely did that in college. I've definitely done my reading for class the day it's due. I'm making YouTube videos the day they're due. Okay, for college, you can only choose 2: good grades, social life, or enough sleep. I've seen that before. I tried to choose good grades and social life. I don't think I got enough sleep in college. Law school, pick any one except sleep and expect to fail at it. Even only 3 months in seems about right. Because, yeah, you don't get to pick sleep. Sleep isn't an option. You just have too much homework to ever sleep. People either make friends by drinking a lot or by studying a lot, which would fall more into the good grades, which you can't control because of the curve. This is a very accurate meme. When your law professor asks you to recite the case discussed last week. Oh my gosh, my contract professor does that all the time. I have no memory of this case. You always have assigned reading for a class, but you don't always talk about that assigned reading in the class, either because you're supposed to learn it by yourself or more often because you're somehow behind on the schedule, either by a day or more than one day. When you fall behind over a weekend, you're expected to know the material that you were assigned for, say, Tuesday, but you also have to remember the material that you didn't get to that was assigned on Thursday. And when you're reading, like, say, 60 to 70 pages of cases for all your classes, the one case that you read 5 days ago, you don't remember what that said at all. At times you may feel that you have found the correct answer. I assure you that this is a total delusion on your part. Yes. That's awesome. I relate to that on a spiritual level. I almost always feel more confused after class because you read it and you're like, oh, I get what this case is doing. I understand. Then you go to class and they're like, you don't get that at all. Or they ask you one question, you're like, I have no idea what that answer is. That wasn't the case. Yeah, if you could act like a reasonably prudent person, that'd be great. Me reading every torts case. The reasonably prudent person standard is one way to go about deciding if somebody is negligent or not. It gets really complicated, but the simplest way I can think to explain it is, would a reasonable person who was taking reasonable care in any given situation let this whatever thing happen? Let X happen? And if the answer is no, a reasonable person wouldn't let that happen or would have taken precautions so that it wouldn't happen, then yeah, you were negligent because you weren't reasonable. If the answer is like, yes, even being reasonable and taking reasonable precautions, that still would have happened, then you're not negligent. You might still end up being liable, but you're at least not negligent. Yes. Motion for summary judgment. Why write 2,000 words when 10 will do? The contract was clear. There's no need for a trial. I'm not enough of a fan of Star Wars to understand why this is a Star Wars meme. If you are, you can tell me in the comments. I'll learn something new. But basically, this is just explaining what motion for summary judgment is, which is essentially the facts of the case are clear. It can only end up one way. There's no point in wasting judicial resources or the time of jury members to hash through all the facts and decide what happened because we already know what happened. Yeah, the contract was clear. I used to be gifted, and now I'm not. Everybody's smart, and everything's hard, and you don't get all A's because curve and because other people are smarter than you. This is a little sad. You know, something I realized when I was looking at a lot of these memes for this video, a lot of law school memes are very self-deprecating because we're all just depressed and tired all the time. Oh, we got a Halloween-themed one. Got a little ghost, not scaring anybody. You should be outlining. So that's a scary thing, for sure. Outlining. Haven't started that yet. Just one question, 20 subparts. So this is basically representing what is called an issue spotter. I like the Trojan horse thing because it's going to destroy you. Basically, this meme is trying to explain what a law school exam is like. So you might get just one question, but then you have to spend like an hour outlining and explaining why there are 20 subparts to this question. And you have to analyze those 20 subparts. Well, first you have to identify them because they don't just like announce themselves. You have to say, oh, there's a problem here. There's a potential legal issue in that sentence, and here's why it's an issue, and here's why it would go this way, but if it didn't go this way, it would be because of this thing, and so then it would go this way, and then here are the two conclusions for that thing, and then you did one, but there's 19 more, and you don't have time for all of them, you don't see all of them, and then if you do see them, you have to hope that you analyze them correctly. Can you tell that I'm stressed out just a little bit about having to do this? Yep, okay. So that was it, you guys. That was my review of very funny law school memes and attempting to over-explain them so they won't be funny anymore. But you can understand them now if you're not in law school. I would love to do another video like this, especially if you guys make or find some more funny law school memes. There are plenty of accounts on Instagram. If you want to DM me a post or something that you created, I would love to see those, and maybe we can do another reaction video like this. I gotta run because I have class in an hour and I am literally filming this Monday morning, so may or may not come out on time today, but that's been a trend lately. So thanks for hanging out with me on whatever day it is, and I will see you guys next week. God bless until then.